Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Today we are going to talk about one of the Detroit Lions' most intriguing players. We're going to talk about a player going into his third season of NFL play, a player that was used as a high draft pick, was taken with a very high pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, and a player that, although some people are very critical of him, has shown a lot of flashes as an NFL player. Somebody that has shown flashes, somebody that has, shown the potential of why he was taken so high in that 2022 class, but for one reason or another just hasn't quite been able to reach the heights and expectations set upon him as his draft stock would have indicated. Now that player is of course going to be Jeff Okudah, a player taken third overall in the 2022 NFL Draft, going into his third year of NFL play, but by the time he makes his start in week 1, it will only be his 11th game of his NFL career. A player that has been struck with injury over and over again early in his 2 years of NFL play. The Lions are looking to get Jeff Okudah back on the field, and they are looking to get number 3 overall quality from the former first-round pick, and today we're going to talk about him. So with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get straight on into taking a look at number 1 cornerback Jeff Okudah. Now Jeff Okudah, as I said, was taken with the third overall pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, and Jeff Okudah has played 10 NFL games in his career as a starting cornerback. In those games, he's allowed 60 yards per game. He's allowed on average 1 touchdown every 3.5 games, coming away with 1 interception, 3 passes defended, and 4 tackles for loss. Now that may not seem like elite cornerback production, and you would be right, but it isn't horrible cornerback production, especially considering that Jeff Okudah gave up 100 yards in the first 2 games of his NFL career, as he was matched up on an island with Davante Adams, the best route runner in the NFL, in his first ever game, and then in his second NFL game was matched up versus DeAndre Hopkins, maybe the most physical wide receiver in the NFL. There's no wonder Jeff Okudah struggled to start his NFL career. He played arguably the 2 best wide receivers in the NFL at that point in time in his first 2 starts, and he was put on an island with those players, right? So it's no wonder he gave up 200 yards in his first 2 games. But if you consider that, right, you consider the fact that he has allowed, I believe, 500 yards in coverage. 200 of those yards came in the first 2 games, and another 100 and a bit came in the first game of 2021, with a majority of those yards coming from one massive play where Okudah was in tight coverage and the safety took a poor angle in his tackling pursuit that allowed Deebo Samuel an extra 50 yards of yak. Jeff Okudah hasn't played that badly. He hasn't allowed that many big plays, and it really hasn't allowed that many yards when you exclude the outliers of his first 2 games, which I think is not necessarily fair to 100% blame on him, as well as the 100-yard game he allowed versus Deebo Samuel on pretty much one massive play that was not 100% Jeff Okudah's fault as to why Deebo Samuel was able to score that massive touchdown. But nonetheless, Jeff Okudah in his first 10 games has allowed on average 60 yards a game, 1 touchdown every 3.5 games, had 1 interception, 3 passes defended, and 4 tackles for loss. Not a horrible start for an NFL rookie at the cornerback position, which, by the way, is the hardest position to transition to in the NFL. Now, on top of those statistics, to give it a little context, Jeff Okudah in his rookie season was matched up on an island versus 9 Pro Bowl caliber wide receivers in his first 9 starts of the NFL, of his NFL career. Devontae Adams was week 1. DeAndre Hopkins was week 2, was game 2. DJ Chark was game 3. Calvin Ridley was game 4. Michael Pittman was game 5. Justin Jefferson was game 7. Terry McLaurin was game 8. DJ Moore was game 9. And then obviously Deebo Samuel was game number 10 in that entirety of his career. Those are all of the wide receivers he has matched up with during his NFL career. The only game that I would say he didn't have a Pro Bowl cornerback against, or a Pro Bowl wide receiver across from him, was versus the New Orleans Saints, but the Lions played really poorly defensively in that entire game. So again, not all of that would be on Jeff Okudah, as the entire team struggled and not just himself. But Jeff Okudah has had some massive plays, right? He did come up with a huge pass defended and a huge interception versus DeAndre Hopkins that helped the Lions eventually come back to win that football game. He's made some big tackles for losses. He's made some nice pass defended. And even on the 2 completions he allowed last season, he was in incredibly tight coverage and he didn't get burnt. He didn't really get, beat on a route. The wide receiver didn't have insane separation. One was a crossing route that Jeff Okudah very nearly batted out of the air, but was very tightly contested and caught by the wide receiver for minimal gain. And the other one was, of course, the infamous Deebo Samuel play where Jeff Okudah was in phenomenal coverage. He was in great coverage right behind Deebo Samuel, and if he was able to locate the football in the air, it could have been an easy pass defended instead of a huge play gain. It was unlucky. It was underthrown. One player adjusted and one player didn't. The coverage wasn't bad. The ball skills were the problem. And then, of course, the broken tackle and the missed tackle by Will Harris. But he did not play bad in his first games, and he played much better in year 2 in the small sample size than he did in year 1. Some people are going to tell you that Jeff Okudah was really bad last year when he played, and that's just not true. Jeff Okudah was much better. He had better hips. He had better feet. He very clearly had a better understanding of NFL level route running, and he didn't play bad. Again, he played 50 snaps for the Lions last season, got targeted 3 times, allowed 2 tightly contested catches, one of which just happened to go for a big play. But that's not bad coverage, that's poor tackling. That's a completely different problem. And if your cornerback is a bad tackler, that's the least of your concerns. That's not a big deal. That's something that's very fixable. And Jeff Okudah, of all cornerbacks, is going to be a fine tackler. Jeff Okudah has every single reason to succeed next season in the NFL, assuming that he stays healthy. Looking at the rest of his teammates from a year ago, Tracy Walker, Amani Oruwariye, and Will Harris all had career years and were staples of the Aaron Glenn defense a season ago. AJ Parker and Jerry Jacobs both stepped in seamlessly to the NFL and made a quick, fluid transition that helped them make plays in the NFL under this coaching staff. And I would argue Jeff Okudah is the most talented cornerback on the entire roster. Easily the highest drafted, easily has the most talents and the most tools of any cornerback currently on the Detroit Lions roster. And if you're talking about pure talent in a vacuum and pure talent as a product, Jeff Okudah has a case to be the best player in the Detroit Lions secondary if he can stay healthy. Jeff Okudah has an easy shot and a very clear path to being a starting cornerback and a good starting cornerback in the NFL. First off, he has to stay healthy. That is the big question mark on Jeff Okudah's career so far. Can he play NFL caliber games for a full NFL calendar year? That is the big question. But Jeff Okudah is 23, which is younger than some of the rookies that were drafted in this class. He has elite coaching at the secondary position, with both Aaron Glenn and Aubrey Pleasant being in those coordinator positions and in those positional groups, right? Aubrey Pleasant and Aaron Glenn, some of the best secondary coaches in the NFL, again, helping all those guys see career years or great years as rookies. And for the first time in his NFL career, Jeff Okudah may actually have a pass rush and a quality secondary surrounding him, so he is not the only player that is talented. In Jeff Okudah's rookie year, he had 0 pass rush and absolutely 0 defensive playmakers around him. The pass rush was abysmal, the linebacker play was horrid, and the secondary play wasn't much better. Last season, the pass rush took a little while to get going, and even last year, with all the pressures that they got on the quarterback, the safety play was really poor, the linebacker play wasn't great, and the sacks just didn't come. This year, the Lions should have a pass rush. With the additions of Aiden Hutchinson, with the breakout of Julian Okwara, and with the return of Romeo Okwara, as well as guys like Josh Pascal added to the middle of that defense, and Levi and Aleem both getting better in year 2, the pass rush should be there. The secondary around him should be there, and for the first time in his NFL career, Jeff Okudah should have a surrounding cast, should be healthy, and should have proper coaching to put him in situations to start making some plays. I don't think Jeff Okudah is going to be an elite cornerback next year. I don't think he's going to be elite. I don't think he's going to be even the number 1 cornerback on the team. But if Jeff Okudah is healthy, there is no reason that he cannot succeed in the 2022 NFL season. There is no reason that Jeff Okudah should not have a career season in 2022. So with all that being said, that is all for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about Jeff Okudah. Do you think he can have a career year? Do you think he can bounce back? And do you think he can essentially save his career in 2022? I'd be very curious what you guys think. But with all of that being said, that is all for you guys today. Thank you both so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.